Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to the 4DMethod 4D and Wakanda user group meeting for June 27th, 2018. On our list of what to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about 4DMethod again for anybody who's just tuning in. We'll get some 4D news from Jim Sobchak, some Wakanda news from Jiang Liu, and we'll get the 4D iNug e-digest from Ed Hammond. I'll do a couple sections called What the Blog and What's to Know in the Knowledge Base, and then we'll get the best part of the meeting, the special topic presentation from Thomas Maul in Germany, Listbox going in a new dimension with ORDA. We'll have general questions and answers, which I'm sure there will be a few, and we'll talk about our next meeting, which is in August of this year. So again, my name is Brent Raymond. This is the 4DMethod 4D and Wakanda user group. You can see our website at 4dmethod.com, and you can contact us at 4dmethod@gmail.com. We get together every couple months to try to bring together and create a place for a scattered community of developers and users of 4D and Wakanda. We stream all of the meetings via YouTube Live to allow people to participate from everywhere, just like today. We're presenting currently from Chicago in the U.S., and we have people connecting from all over the place. We record all of the meetings and presentations to be viewed again or shared with others, or you can tape them and watch them on the train, or whatever you like to do, wherever you like to watch videos. And we try to provide fresh new content and exposure for users and developers of 4D and Wakanda everywhere. So I'm going to kick over to Jim for the latest news from 4D. Jim is the VP of Sales and Services for 4D, and also the OEM manager here in North America. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Welcome from the 4D offices here in the heart of Silicon Valley. Another beautiful day in California. Our thanks, as always, to Brent and Ed for organizing these meetings and for inviting the 4D team and the Wakanda team to participate. It's always a pleasure to do these. Before I begin, I'd like to mention that Brian Young, whom you all know from past 4D meetings and from the Summit and World Tour, has left 4D to pursue his lifelong passion of being a professional developer. So he's well on that track, and we will all miss Brian. That said, I'd like to welcome and introduce you to Donna Gallus, who is our new marketing field manager here in the San Jose office. She's taking this meeting on the road. Donna brings a wealth of software marketing experience to 4D. We're super excited about having her here to work with us. She's very customer focused, and I'm sure many of you who are in this meeting now will be hearing from Donna soon. She's excited to meet you as well. And of course, we're super excited that our own Thomas Maul is presenting today on list boxes going in a new dimension with ORDA. As most of you know, ORDA is the main feature in V17 and the main topic of our blog post at blog.4d.com. We're sure you'll enjoy today's presentation, and we'll want to rewatch it again on YouTube sometime down the road. So I'm not going to take too much time. I want to get right to the presentation, but just a couple of announcements or things to remember. V17, of course, we're super busy with that. It's coming soon. I want to first thank all of you who are beta testing V17 and providing us with your feedback on this great new version. Your input is the best way for us to continue to release new versions of 4D that are both stable and feature rich with the features that you've been asking for. So as you can gather from the info on 4D forums, the general topics of discussion, the release is not far away. So here in the 4D office, it used to be that when we would release, on the verge of releasing a new version, it would be crazy around here, people going everywhere. But ever since we initiated agile development and our releases are coming out every 3 months, the new version releases are much more controlled now. You've all been working with the new features for several months. We've been working with them here internally. The marketing department has been releasing all these new features. So the 4D community is much more calm and relaxed about new versions. Let's put it that way. More stable and better tested than ever before. So we will continue to put out marketing blasts that describe the new features of V17, pointing to blog posts, pointing to summit videos that were part of V17 features. And after that, after release of V17, we will continue to publish summit keynote extracts. So we're excited about that. And finally, the new website that we mentioned at the 4D Summit is close. We had hoped to release it about the same time as V17. We may not reach that goal, but it will be soon thereafter. We've all seen it internally. It's well on its way. It looks beautiful. You guys will be super excited when it's released, and that will be soon. So that's all for me. Thank you, Brent. I'm going to turn it over to you again.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, as always, for presenting a little bit about what's going on at 4D there, and there's always a bit of news on the way, and this is some big news with V17 coming. We all saw at the summit how much exciting new features were on the way. So that's exciting indeed. I was hoping that maybe a surprise announcement would happen today, but unfortunately not just yet. So, but thanks again. And I'll kick it back to you guys to talk to Zhang about a little bit about what's been happening in Wakanda since our last meeting.
Thanks, Brent. Fortunately, here we have a new release in Wakanda, which is 2.6.0. So as you know, all of our developers have been actively on GitHub and Gitter and Stack Overflow, so we're listening to our users' feature requests. So we in this one we've listened to our most wanted feature request is enhancements in Linux and the latest port to Ubuntu 18.04. So now we have enhanced the installation on Linux. We've enhanced this management with systemd, and we bring it up to the latest version. So now our most deployed platform, Linux, will be very happy with that. And in addition, I would like to bring attention is the new Wakanda blog. Ricardo started a new series of blogs starting from kind of high-level stuff on Wakanda server, and then drilling down to data store and Wakanda terminologies and how Wakanda works. I know a lot of them seem very familiar to existing Wakanda users, but there might be something new that you probably didn't know or seemed interesting. So in case any of these seems interesting to you, you can always feel free to reach out to Ricardo or to me if you have my contacts. And as always, we are always on the GitHub and on the Gitter actively listening to anything or issues or problems Wakanda users might have. So again, thank you for being with us and submitting your feature requests and bug reports, and those discussions matter a lot to us. And yeah, that's the updates from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Zhang. Yep. As the slide shows here, you can get to those blog posts at blog.wakanda.io, starting with the Wakanda server post. All of those posts and their training materials are really excellent, and I encourage you, even if you're a seasoned developer, if you're just curious about Wakanda, to check out the documentation, because it's there's some really interesting concepts in there, and which can also through ORDA are very relevant to what's happening in 4D. So moving on along here, we have the 4D INUG e-digest from our own Ed Hammond, where he discussed some of the current discussion, and the discussion has happened since our last meeting. Was it in April, Ed? It's been a long time, so been too long. So we'll hear about what's been going on.
Thanks, Brent. I'll just say that there's been a lot going on in the last 8 weeks. some of which are my own health issues and recovery. So I'm going to be devoting most of my time to our feature presentation. A couple of threads worth noting. Jeff Kane was reporting on the new network layer update. He reported on stress testing the new network layer using 4D server v16.3 hotfix 2, build 221345, and had very positive results from that. And looks like that they are moving forward with their new network layer using their Windows server there at Sweetwater. On another note, Chuck Miller has been busy setting up mirrors. He has two threads that he started, one setting up a mirror and the other mirror and backup. And oddly enough, this discussion is about setting up mirrors. It gets into naming of journal files, best practices, setting up multiple mirrors, and where to run your 4D backup from. On another note, Jody Bevan had a thread on dragging from outside of 4D into a 4D form. That was answered with code examples and a knowledge-based reference. So if you're interested in dragging information from outside of 4D into 4D, look up that thread. Jim Lavos had a thread on how does one detect that cookies are disabled. This was a rather lively discussion on how to detect cookies, how they work, and if they can be set. There's a large thread now going on delay process bug. And I'll just say that that is the title of the thread. I don't know that there's a particular bug that has actually been referenced. I know there are a couple of different ones mentioned in the thread, but nothing exact. If you're experiencing problems with delay process, you may want to look up that thread. And sadly, we want to note the passing, Wayne Stewart posted the passing of Sujit Shah, who sadly passed away peacefully in his sleep on Wednesday, June 20th in Australia. And on that note, I will pass it back to you, Brent.
Okay, thanks so much, Ed. And yep, sad news there. Yeah, it's a bummer to when that happens to anybody in the community or anybody anywhere. So it's but that's always good discussion there in the NUG. Always there's great features with the drag and drop from between the OS and 4D and around in 4D. A lot to explore there for any of us who code 4D. Some powerful features. But moving right along to other news. The 4D blog has been having some great material as it has since its inception. I'd just like to shine some light on the series of posts about ORDA, which keep on coming very quickly. So any of us who are interested in V17 and the new features with ORDA, there's just a wealth of material describing different coding approaches with ORDA and the different member functions and whatnot that are available in V17. And in fact, if you're a bit lost with anything in the demo today, that's a great place to start warming up and perhaps watching the demo again afterwards. Also, there has been several high quality blog posts with a focus on GDPR, the European Privacy Initiative. So if you're keeping track of any personal information and do any business with any European nationals, which I think that damn near includes all of us. Those are some very important white papers to read and blog posts to read. And in fact, there's also some video content presentations from the European Summit that can be found on the knowledge base. The blog is available at blog.4d.com, and the knowledge base also has some excellent information that is good to keep abreast of. As I mentioned, they've done a really great job this time around with making available all of the summit materials from the European 4D Summit and the summit in the U.S. So much so that if you're a partner, you can go in and I noted on here there's extra sessions. Well, it's pretty neat because in the past, not everyone who presented in Europe, you weren't always able to see their presentations if you only were able to go to the summit in the U.S. And so I've had a great time catching up on some of the excellent material that was only presented in Europe, and so it's nice that there's videos now of almost all of the 4D Summit presentations, and also the demo databases are available. So great stuff. Check it out. Also individually, and this is a short list since we've been a few months now, a little bit longer this time around. With our 4DMethod meeting, there's been a lot of great knowledge-based tech notes and tech tips. I'll just note a few. There's an introduction to form data, which goes into depth about how to use the new form variable with the dialogue, with presenting dialogues to the user, and how to write data back and forth using an object in a form variable. And it also focuses on how to do that with subforms, which there's a couple of tricks and gotchas using the form variable with subforms. There's a great technical note on creating a custom 4D Write Pro navigation panel. As you can see in the small thumbnail there, additional small thumbnails on the left side, as you might see in PDF viewer preview, where you can see thumbnails of each of the pages. They've made that available, that kind of functionality available via a drop-in component. So now if you're using 4D Write Pro, you can very easily create this kind of an interface with the mini baby pages, which is really nice. Then also just a couple of fun things. The cross-platform text-to-speech. If you're providing some accessibility features in your applications for perhaps reading certain sections of the interface, it shows you how to do that both in Mac and Windows. And also a very crafty tech tip on controlling the autocomplete in the method editors with dot notation. It describes an approach for how to sort of preload what values you want to be able to have access to as far as autocompleting with the dot notation yourself, and have them loaded at the startup of the database, so that you can that's available immediately. And so it adds a bit of customization capabilities there with the dot notation autocomplete. Okay, so now the fun part of the meeting here, where we get to have people like Thomas Maul here to present for us. Thomas has been he's joining us from Germany. He's been developing 4D applications since the 80s. If you've seen, some of this is, if you're familiar with Thomas, some of this is just a recap. But he joined 4D as a technical director in '88 of the previous century. Not dating us all here, but he's been in the game for a while, supporting customers in Germany and Austria. He subsequently was promoted to the managing director for 4D Germany, then on to the VP of strategy for the 4D product line. He's given many valuable contributions in the NUG, in the knowledge base, in 4D summit sessions, and even earlier he did a session to 4DMethod a couple of years ago on messaging with 4D v16, where he demonstrated the use of call worker and call form, and it, in turn is today the still the most watched 4DMethod meeting by far. I should rephrase that, until today, anyways. I'm sure this one will surpass those numbers. Today, Tomas is here to introduce new concepts in the 4D language. He will share a few examples of modern approach to 4D application coding with heavy use of ORDA, and he'll do a bit of explanation of ORDA in a moment, and collections and the new form object with dialogues and collection-based list boxes. And beyond that, I'll just say willkommen and vielen Dank for joining us. And I'm sorry for the unfortunate circumstances. Perhaps it would have indeed been better to present, to do the presentation earlier today, but it's of course referring to the World Cup. But thank you for joining us.
Thanks for the introduction, and hello everybody. Yeah, and jump directly to screen sharing. Oops. Okay, better. So I want to talk about ORDA, Object Relational Data Access. And to start with the biggest misunderstanding, we don't talk about language. ORDA is not a language. ORDA is everything. It is about relations. It is about using objects. It is about accessing data by language, by forms, anywhere, everywhere. And this is a new way of thinking. It don't replace the old language or the classic language. Everything still exists and will exist, but this is an additional way. So to remember, it's not only a language. The language looks a little bit strange from the beginning, except you already worked or played with JavaScript, because you can do a kind of chaining and putting stuff together. But I will not talk today about the language. If you want to learn that, go to the blog. There are a lot of examples. By the way, I will show around 4 examples, and it's more a kind of show and tell. I show you what I'm doing. I show you what we tried and what works and what not so nice. And I'm using a lot of existing technology, which may be new for you if you did not follow the R releases. The first one is form. Brent already mentioned that. Form is a way, it was promoted from us and first even developed for that, to pass data between forms. And it's great for that. But I personally love it to use it as a kind of local form variable. Something like a dollar variable, just for forms. As a dollar variable is used in a method, you can use form only in a form. And this means you can have isolated variables inside a form where you don't have conflicts with other forms, and you don't need to let's say, you don't need to waste process variables. And the examples I'm showing later will not use any process variable at all. And of course, no inter-process variable, simply because I don't need them. It just works all with local variables and form variables. If you don't know form, here's the blog to read. The slides are on GitHub, you find it on the 4DMethod page, so you can download and then click on the links. This was too fast, sorry. Here's an example how the form command works if you want to pass data. I'm creating a new object, adding 2 attributes, company name, last name, opening a window, and pass this object dialog. So it's a new parameter. And inside the dialog, you can access this data using form, meaning form.company name or form.last name. And the really nice thing is, if the data is changed, modified inside the form, you can still access it outside, even the window is already closed. So you can pass something to a dialog, use it there, and pass it back. Here we used it only with an object, but with ORDA we can pass an entity, meaning we can pass a record. We can even pass many records. We can pass an entity selection. And this finally allows us to pass records or selections between methods or between forms, and so create fully isolated code. And isolated code means we can create generic code. And isolated generic code means we could really do unit testing, auto testing, reproducible testing, all the stuff we was missing in the past. So form is great, even if you don't use ORDA. Take a look on that. The next feature I'm using is dialog with asterisk, with that nice star. You know, we have a guy in the company which tries to put stars everywhere. This star was added some years ago, and it was more or less useless in 14 and 15. It started to become interesting with 16 and call form, and it became extremely powerful now in the combination with form. If all the data inside the form is isolated and generic, and if I can open as many forms as I want, as many windows as I want isolated, it means I don't need processes anymore for the user interface. I can run 10, 15 processes, 10, 15 windows in the same process. So for the people with 4D for a long time, with version 3, we added processes, and processes was, by the way to add windows. Before version 3, it was quite difficult to have more than one window active. So when you need now 10 windows, you open 10 processes. This is not needed anymore. And with less processes, you have less problems, you have less conflicts. Everything gets so much easier. You will see that. Of course, you still can use processes, but you don't need to use them for user interface. The next technology I will use is list boxes and collections. If you missed collections so far, you missed a lot of things. A collection is, to say it simply, a kind of flexible array. A normal array is really strict typed. It's an array of, it's a list of longins, a list of booleans, a list of text, all the same type. A collection is a list of anything, a list of things. So it could be a boolean, a text, a picture, an object, another collection, all in the same collection. And together with a list box, you usually use a collection of objects, and each object has several attributes. In this example, we have an object with last name, first name, birthday, and even another collection inside. And if you assign this collection to a list box, you can use the elements from that collection by using the new this command. And this returns you the currently displayed element of that list box. So not the number, not the position. It looks like a copy of that object, but in reality, it's not a copy, it's a kind of reference. You could see it as a kind of pointer. Just you don't need to handle pointers and do all this dereferencing stuff. You use it as it would be a copy, but it's fully optimized and highly efficient. And I can use the attribute as it is, or I can use it in a formula like last name plus space plus first name. I can even do calculations like how many childs are in this collection. And you will see this later, just to introduce it. And if you don't know it, read about it. The next thing to know about collections and list box is you assign the data source which collection you want to use. And you assign 3 variables, which could be like here global variables, but it could be also form.selected item, form.whatever. You can use your own names, and it could be form names. If you click a line in the list box, the selected item, the object, is automatically put in this variable. It's not a copy, as I said, it's a reference, a kind of pointer. But you can use it as it would be a real copy. Highly efficient. So you don't need to do all this kind with brackets to address the element. You just use it, and you will see later the benefit of it. You still get the position in the list box, so the first, second, third line. You need that for a lot of list box commands. And if the user selected more than one element, more than one line, the selection goes in this collection. So meaning this is now really easy. If you have 1,000 lines and the user select 3 of them, these 3 are automatically copied in this collection. Or as said, they are not copied, it's kind of references. And this creates a huge power. And I will show you all that stuff. And if you see it for the first time, you will either think it's faked or it's magic, because you will not see any code. You will not see any work. It is just working. And it's difficult to understand how it works if you don't understand this concept. So read this blog post, and following on that, this is a really complex blog post, also published. This is one form. And this form is not displaying any database object, no records. It is only displaying this JSON object. So we have an object in memory, let's say received from another web server, and last name is displayed here in last name, first name and first name. And this list box has as data source the name of a JSON object dot results. So you see here, results is a collection, one element, second element. It has sub attributes like category and test, and category is displayed here. And if the user clicks on one of them here, it automatically goes to category selected, which is now the data source of this list box. And even one level lower, category test. So we get the content here. And if a user clicks something here, it goes in test selected, and this is the source here. So without any single line of code, just by creating a form, we have a fully functional form where the user can click on objects, change the displayed content. Everything works fully automatic. Yeah, you need to try it yourself, because if you don't try it, honestly, you don't believe it. So this is the stuff you need to go through to understand what I'm showing now. So if everything goes too fast, please go back to the list, to the blogs, and read them. I will show several examples. Go to that later. The movie example, you find that also on GitHub, but it has only 10 movies included, because with 10 movies already make 150 megabytes. To really play with it, to see the speed, to see how smooth everything works, you need more records. And to be able to provide you with a lot of data, this is why I selected movies, because you can download all of them from the MovieDB. So, okay, you don't download the movies, you download the movie description. To do so, you need an API key. You can get it for free from this link. And when you run the method included in the database, and this will load the 100 most popular movies. You can also run 250 or 1,000 movies. It is slow, not because ORDA is slow, but because we need to respect the times of use. And we request not to use too much bandwidth. So it will load a movie, delay a while, load a movie, delay a while, and so on. So it will take some hours to download 100 movies. If you let it run over the weekend, no problem to go to 1,000. Okay, so much for talking. Now time for showing something. Okay, I think I need to hide that. This is the structure, a single table, just one table. The table is to manage people, persons. Person has a last name, a first name, a birthday. And as this is a worldwide presentation, gender, we only make male and female. So this is not politically correct, I know. We only have the biological thing from the beginning, male, female, meaning we have only one father, one mother, and one partner. And so this is not the believing of 4D, this is not any political statement, this is just to keep it simple, okay? This is a technical presentation. So a person has a father, and the father has a recursive relation. And the recursive relation has a name. Maybe you never noticed that, but for a while you can name a relation. The name is named father, or children as father. And as you can guess, the mother relation is named mother, and the partner is named partner. And this is all the trick with ORDA to access relations. By using person.last name, I get his last name. By using person.father.last name, I get his father's last name. And with person.father.last name, I get the grandfather. It's easy. This is too easy to believe, so I show it to you. We have 15,000 persons in the system, graded automatically by random assigning names and birthdays and randomly assigning partners. This is just data for testing. So we started 1900. To have some more real data, I need to go down. Okay, so this person, first and last name, born 76, has this partner, born 75, with father, with mother, and so many kids and brothers or sisters. And we have a list box where we can scroll up and down and display all with 15,000 data with all with relations. Now think about how you would write that with version 16. You would use list box, you would use arrays, you would fill with arrays, you would do a lot of queries. And just to open that screen, you would need 10, 20, 30 seconds, I don't know. And you need to write a lot of code. Now, you create this list box. You write code like this. People is the name of a collection, to say it easily. This is the selection. I do a search by using the data store. People is the name of a table, all records. And when we sort them by birthday, last name, first name. And this is the only code we need. The second line is just for fun. We show how many people we found. This is the 15,000 on top. And that is all the code. To display them, we have a list box with a collection assigned people. Remember, people was the name we just used to find the data. And in the first column, we have, let's make it bigger, this.last name, this.first name. So remember, this is the currently displayed line. With last name, with first name, finished. No more code. Birthday is the same with birthday. And to get the partner, we use exactly the same. Just we use partner as relation, with partner last name, with partner first name. You can guess the same for birthday, and I assume you already know how we do it for father or for mother. It's very simple. There's no other code. You use list boxes with relations just by assigning them. If you don't have recursive relations, because it was really difficult in previous versions, imagine to do the same with contacts companies or invoices and invoice customer and invoice customer shipping address. It is so easy to display it. If you have an invoice now with a shipping address and an invoicing address, you can simply display them by using them. No code needed. But maybe this is too easy. So make it more complicated. The same list box. People, only the male people, only the men's, birthday, their partner, birthday, and the kids. And if I click on one, let's go down to have one with fathers and grandfathers. If I click on one, it searches for the partner, for the parents, for the grandparents, for the kids, brothers and sisters, aunts, and the cousins. And it needed 1 millisecond to do all that and to display it. And of course, I can do several of them. So you can see it's more and more. And it's slower. So let's take a longer list. I have now needed 900 milliseconds to find nearly 4,000 grandparents, 3,000 parents, 3,600 children, and so on. And all this data is here. So it was 1 second to build all this user interface, but it's a huge amount of data. Think about how many data you would have needed. By the way, I forgot to say that this example is not written from myself. It was written from Roland Lanocelle, which gave a 4D Write Pro presentation in the 4DMethod group a while ago. And he's a really graphical guy. And you will see it in a minute. And discussing it with him, he said, yeah, a second is not bad, but I will try to make it faster. So he made it faster, and he with a hidden switch. Let me find the beginning. I now press the caps lock key. You will see it in the code in a minute. and do the same selection. And we found again 3000 parents in 17 milliseconds. So I now show you the code, two ways of coding, the slow code and the fast code. But first, just to save it again, 17 milliseconds to find so many records, recursive records, and to display all the data. Displaying the data? No, I'm cheating. This is a list box. 4D knows that only 4 lines are displayed. So only 4 lines are calculated. When I scroll the down, the next lines are calculated. If I scroll back, it either uses the cache, or if it's displayed first time, it calculated again. This is highly efficient because it's highly optimized. So now let's look in the code. So this list box is more or less the same as you know. Maybe first with the form method. It's the same, it's just now a query for all mails. So here in the list box, we have assigned people. And inside people, as you can guess, last name, birthday, partner last name, birthday, and so on. And the other list boxes here are more or less copies. They have exactly the same fields, except this list box has as data source grandparents, this has parents, children, siblings, aunts, and cousins. But except that, everything is the same. So no hidden code. You could see there's no code except this one. If I click here, now we need to execute code. Shift lock is still pressed. Okay. So on selection change, he calculates the milliseconds to get the timing, and he searches for all parents. So persons, I forgot that, sorry. So people is the collection of data we display. And here. And persons is all the selected items. So this is kind of collection and entity selection, which includes all the selected ones. There's no code for that. And coming back to this one. So we pass the selected persons to get the parents. As I said, there are 2 code fragments, one with cap lock and one without. Let's focus on the slow one first. To find from a given number of people all parents, we can create a new empty selection. We loop through the persons to get for each of them. For each person, we will check if he has a mother. If yes, we add it. When we check if there's a father, if yes, we add it. And when we return the selection. This is the classical approach as you would do it maybe today. The fast code is only 1 line. And this is a real hidden trick from ORDA, but it's so clever. For a lot of commands, you can either give an entity or an entity selection. So if I do an entity, a single record, an entity dot relation, I also get 1 record. Asking for 1 mother, I get 1 mother. But if I use a selection, an entity, if I use several people, mother, I get all the mothers. So this is like in the old language, if we would use something like a relate many selection. And asking for from all selected people, all mothers, or from all selected people, all fathers, I get simply all the parents. So this line is not only much easier to write, it is, as you saw, also much faster. Now the same for the grandparents. Oh, we don't need code. To find the grandparents, we just need to ask for the parents from our parents. Okay, kids. The slow way, we loop through them, we search for everybody what we already found, or children as father, or children as mother. The fast way is nearly the same. Person, children as father, or person, children as mother. There's not much writing difference, only some speed difference. But the fun starts here. I want to get all my brothers and sisters. 2 ways to do so. This is the complicated one, really complicated, and not even complete because it only checks for the father. So I will focus on the fast and easy one. To find all my brothers and sisters, all I need to do is to go to my father, look for his kids, or I go to my mother, look for her kids, mix them both together, minus myself. And as persons is a selection, it is not me. For all selected people, all the kids from the father, plus all the kids from the mother, minus the selected people, is the result we need. It's one line. Easy to write and extremely fast, because 4D is super optimized for that. Yeah, the uncles are easy. I just need to get the siblings from my parents. And to get the cousins, I just need to get the children from the uncles. That's it. So with 6 lines of code, produces all this form. Find all this stuff, and you saw how super fast that was. Yeah, I missed to tell you the bad news. This is the only example I cannot give to you. But as you saw, there's not a lot of code inside. It's extremely small. The reason why I cannot give it to you is the data behind. And we are still looking for getting example data. This is what we need. As said, Roland is a graphical guy, and he wants to make everything wonderful. So he used pictures to show faces of all the people. And we don't have a right to deploy with pictures. Problem number 1. Problem number 2, we don't have enough pictures. I mean, we need a lot of different faces, and we need faces in a different age for the parents and a very different age for grandparents, which was born 1900 something. This face is not really looking like 1900 something. And as you can see here, by bad luck, we got twice the same face. And if you browse through, we often enough get the same face again and again, which is, of course, just happening because we had not enough pictures. So this was the bad news. But let's focus on the example. How would you write something like that? To click on a person and to get that kind of tree. The only way I could imagine in 16 or before is to use SVG and to build a huge SVG picture on the fly with a lot of code. So the magic is here how Roland did it with ORDA. A list box and a form. The list box has assigned that the current item is man. And here, as you can now guess, maybe already, the text is man.lastname.first name. And man partner last name first name. Then man father last name first name. Man mother last name. Or man father last name, man father mother last name, and so on. So by simply creating a hardwired form and using the syntax to go through relations, and the same to display the pictures, everything works without code, just by using that. I cannot say without a single line of code, because to build a horizontal list of pictures as you need it for kids, here's code to combine pictures for the kids. Everything else is just clicking. So ORDA is not only a language. ORDA could change a lot how you create user interface. And that was my first example. So second example. If you watched the keynote at the summit, you maybe remember I said ORDA is a way to use any database as an object. And as you just saw, I could use records with whatever relation.field. I could use them as it would be just a single object. The other way is ORDA allows me to use any object as a database. And I looked for a way to prove it. And funny enough, a big German newspaper has published in the beginning of 2018 all the news we used the last 20 years. So for each year, we have a JSON document, and you can see they're huge. 38 megabyte, 35 megabyte, 34 megabyte, 20. Just the older ones were smaller. And if you take a look, oh, it seems that the screen sharing don't allow me to do drag and drop, so let's do it like that. Oh. So the content of this 35 megabyte is a really huge JSON. You can see it goes to 240,000 lines. And for each element, we have an ID, a headline, an author, a timestamp. The text is German, but don't care for the content. It's only about how it works. We have a topic, we have URL to get the full text, we have the keywords and so on. And this for a lot of data, 35 megabyte. So could we display that as a single object? Let's try. And you find this on the website, so you can load it. You can try it yourself. So first, how it looks. This is the list of years of JSON files. I select one, and it analyzed it and says there are 10,000 news inside, nearly 14,000 keywords, and these are all the news displayed in the list box. And for each of them, I can click on it and get the full content. I can do queries like finding all elements in that file which uses Apple either in the headline or in the full text. I press Tab now, and I found 1,500 news, and you can go through them. I can do queries like, let's say I want to find all the news written from a guy named Leo. So I write here outro equal Leo. Tab, and it was 481 Leo. I can search for date, I can search for text, I can click on, let's find something with text. I stand my thing. Oh, okay. Bad words. Not enough. I can use keywords, so anything just by clicking. And all this works as it would be a database. So let's look on the code. This is the form. This was the pop-up menu which I used to select the year. When I select one, this is the list of files I found, and the command prepare data is the real work with fields with list box. So let's quickly go through. Document to text, I assume you know the command. It reads the file in memory in a text variable. So just to remind, this command reads a 35 megabyte command, a 35 megabyte file, and we have now 35 megabyte in memory. I try to parse with this JSON, have now a full collection memory. To get the keyword list, I start with an empty collection. I browse through all the news inside. To make sorting easier, I calculate a new date based on the timestamp using the first 10 characters. And I build a collection of keywords because each news has different keywords, so I combine all of them together. And when I'm finished, I assign all this collection to a form variable named form news and a copy of that to form original. The idea here to have it twice is, this is my database, and whatever I'm doing in the future, I search here and assign it here. And form news is displayed in the list box. You will see in a minute. So this looks as if I would have it twice, but in reality, I only have a copy of references to entities. So it's again optimized. For the keywords, I only want to have the distinct keywords, only each of them once. Then I want to have a text showing how many I found. So remember, news, everything is in news. So this list box has assigned form.news, so displaying it. And inside I use the field which was in the object. And if one is selected, if I click on one, it goes in form selected. And this text field shows form.selected.text. So I don't need to do code to click one to select one here and display it here. I just assign it. Below we have our query. So here this variable is named form.word. And I do original, remember this was all venues, form.original query, either headline or in the text with word. And I assign the result to news. And news was displayed here. That's all. Status text is only needed to show how many I found. And to do a query, This is a little bit dirty trick, but I just use whatever I entered here as a query command. It's a little bit like query by formula. It's not a formula, it's only a query command. And this was all that code. Ah yeah, and I forgot to prove the structure is empty. There's nothing in here. Everything is just done in memory. So this is a database. It makes no sense, but just to give you an idea that you can do a lot of stuff just in memory, and that even the list box can display all that stuff, even if it is so huge, without needing a lot of code. This was example number 2. Movies. So this was a personal playground for me. I just wanted to see what I can do with ORDA. When we had the first working version in the company, which was around summer last year, nearly a year ago, I started just by using ORDA as a language, only using for calculating statistics, doing creating records, stuff like that. And when I wanted to see how I would do user interface, and that was the result. I had not a dream, a wish for many years. I wanted to create a grid widget, a matrix widget, as Wakanda had it. I was really jealous on Wakanda for this matrix. And I tried with arrays, and arrays was way too slow. So I wanted to have a horizontal list box where the records are not displayed as normally below each other, but side by side. And if there's not enough space, it continues on the second row. And of course, I should be able to resize. So an automatically adjusting list box, displaying just the movie titles. And I want it fast. And I tried that with 15 and 16 by using arrays and using calculated arrays, and I did a lot of stuff and everything was slow. Okay, it would have worked fine with 100, but if you have more, like I have here nearly 5,000 actors, it would be too slow to build with 4 arrays. And if I start to resize, it would be way too slow. And scrolling them down, the pictures here missing is not missing data. This is missing because I do not have a photo from this actor, only for the known ones. Now this is a bad example. So it is just fast because, yeah, what is happening? So this is what I want to show you now. And I know that it's difficult to understand because I mix a lot of different techniques. So you can either see it now as a presentation to see what's possible, or you can take it as a reason to download the source and try to understand yourself. Before I go on with source, some more things I can do. I can, of course, double-click a movie. For that movie, I have a background picture. I have again a matrix or a grid, which shows me all the actors. Let's move it to the side. I can double-click an actor. I get all the movies I have from this actor. I can double-click a movie to get a second one. Even I'm here now inside, I'm still in the current selection, so I selected this one. If I go to the next, it's now the last one, so it's disabled. So this is also a nice trick which you might want to look in the source. I use dialog with the form command, and I pass this entity. And the entity remembers to which collection it belongs. So even I only pass an entity, still I can do entity next and entity previous, because the entity knows where it came from. If I, what else can we do? If I open here another actor, I can have 2 actors open, and of course I can still browse inside the collection I had before, so coming back to the same one. And, maybe interesting, I do not use any process for that. All is running in the application process. And you can check the code. I do not use process variables. I do not use inter-process variables. Everything is just local variables and form variables. This is not a real reason to do so. I just wanted to see if it's possible. So let's look inside. This is the structure. 3 tables, movies, actors, and many-to-many, because one movie can have several actors, one actor can be in several movies. The many-to-many table also has an additional field named character, which is the role of an actor in that movie. A movie has a title, a country where it was done, playtime, some notes, genre, the usual stuff. It also has a poster, a small poster, a fan art, and the dark, dim fan art for the background. And for the actors, also have name, notes, day of birth, day of death, and so on, and a photo, and a thumbnail. The displaying of the grid is tricky. So I know that you need to have a while to understand it. I show you where you find the code, and I wish you a lot of fun to go through the code. So to make it a little bit easier to understand, in this example, I have a collection named form.example, and this collection is filled with numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 99. So this is a simple collection only with numbers. And I have signed this collection to this list box. So as you can guess, the list box shows 0 to 99. I have assigned the same collection to this list box. But here I don't display the value as above. I have assigned a 4D method. And this 4D method gets the value and 0, 1, 2, or 3. And now we are doing some calculation. If we calculate the line number, which is 0, times the number of columns, plus the second parameter, we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, an example. This line has the number 1. We have 4 columns. 1 times 4 gives 4, plus 0 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 2 is 6, and plus 3 would be 7. So we just calculate numbers. Let's see how we do it. Demo calculate. I get the list of columns. I could also use 4 here because it's always 4. But to keep it flexible later, to make it resizable, I have dynamically asked for a number of columns. I take the value, remember this was 0 to 99, times the number of columns, plus the position, which is the second parameter. And here I just return the text. And this text, as you might guess already, is the, you could name it record number or the selected record number. It is the position of a record in the collection. So we know we want to display the 13 record here, or the 18 record here, or the 31 record here. And this is the trick how I've built here a matrix with a list box displaying pictures without loading anything up front. Because 4D executes that command only when it wants to display this item. Meaning if I scroll down, oops, now it calculates this number. It was not done before. Executes that command only when it wants to display this item. Somebody has the microphone on. Oops, now it calculates this number. And to show it with a picture, it's the same code. Number of columns, calculate the position. Now, because I use this method twice, I use it if I come from actors or if I have a full movie list. I check if I come from the actors list, so I have a movie cast, or I come directly and use from my form variables movies the position, which gives me a movie. I check if a movie is existing, could be at the end of the list. If there's a movie, I check if a movie has a picture. And then if it has a picture, I return the picture. So not a number, now with the time a picture. And if there's no picture, I calculate, I create my own virtual picture using an SVG area, returning the movie title. And all this was live. And when you remember the actors, which is the same code more or less, just in the actors table, I use the embedded picture, plus the name of the actor, plus the character. Everything was created dynamically, live, and extremely fast. Last thing to show here is load movies is the code you need if you want to download your own stuff to try. And in the forms, let's say the movie table, this is the big list box showing the stuff. And movie detail. This form looks a little bit weird, gray, because the background is a variable which is filled with fan art if one is existing, or with black if there's none. And inside I have just form.movie.poster. And here's another list box with a matrix. So browse the source if you're interested to learn how. I did not do any comments because I run out of time. There's a minimum comments here. But I heard that Brent wants to work on it and add some more comments, making it easier for you to learn. Hopefully he did.
Yeah, again, this code is available on the GitHub, and I hope to be able to have some time to add some more comments and that kind of thing after the meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I run out of time. Inside the movie example is the second example, because I needed some records to show this example. Some of you might have seen a component I published many years ago named user mode component, which was a generic component to replace the user mode. Some might have seen it at the last World Tour where we published an enhanced version. So when we started to play with ORDA, I thought, can I rewrite that with ORDA? Can I do the same stuff? And honestly, I did not finish because I got a lot of new ideas what to do, and I'm still playing with ideas. So here's what I did. You can select the tables. So it goes for any database. Use that component, push it in your database. You need to have, of course, version 17, and you need to have object notation enabled. And then you can browse them. And if you double-click one, it opens another window showing the content. You can, of course, open as many windows as you want. In the content, as I was lazy, I only went for simple fields. So I don't display blobs, objects, or pics. Simply I run out of time. But I look if this field list contains a relation. If yes, I show the relation name and the related table. And if you click on the relation, I show all the related records, allowing you to double-click the next one, showing the cast data with the way to go to the next one, and so on. So this is browsing through, following all the relations in the system, and automatically passing them and going through. This gives you maybe an idea how to do generic coding, not knowing the structure, not knowing the table names, field names, relations, where relation is going, but still you can follow and use all of them. And of course, just for fun, no process. Everything is running in process one. And so this is another example where you can play with. Source code is in the movie database. I'll show it. Let me close all first. Quit. If you go on Mac, if you go on the packet, in the component is the user mode component. So one left, and then we are finished. How is the time? Okay. Talking with customers in code kitchens and so on, funny enough, I always hear, you know, subtables was great. I say, subtables great? This was one of the most stupid ideas we had 30 years ago. No, subtables are great because everything was locked in a record. So when we load a record, everything is included. If we save it, everything is included. If we cancel, nothing is saved. We don't need transactions. We don't need nested transactions. We don't need to think. Everything just works. It was nice. And yeah, but it was slow with millions of records. Yeah, but I don't have millions of records. Okay, but it's difficult to make statistics. It's difficult to do real calculations. I don't need that always. So I always heard that in the last years. So with version 14, when we got the object field, I tried to do so. I tried to use an object field to simulate a subtable. And I failed. Okay, that didn't fail, it worked, but it was even more code. It was so much work to copy it in the list box, to copy it back, to do it to arrays. It was no fun. So with ORDA, I tried it again. And this example is not finished because maybe I did too much, so maybe not so clever. So I have a field here named contacts, and I try to assign to this list box So I tried even to handle in that object field more than one subtable. It works, but I'm not sure it's a clever idea. So I assigned here not only contacts, I assigned a sub-element named contacts. It's not the best naming, I know. It should have been subtable.contacts or something like that. I was not creative enough. But I think you still get the idea. So I assigned directly contacts, and each contact has either first name or last name. And the code behind in the for method, if there is no object, if the object is not existing because it's maybe a new record, I create a new object with the sub-element contacts. This is another collection. And that's all. I'll come back to the rest of the code in a minute. So I can even simply double-click here, and I have here the subtable. And I can modify it and save it. And if I go back, it's here. And I can use the browse buttons. And you saw maybe with the browse buttons there's no code behind, and it's still working. But it's like magic. And the trick is because I assigned it here to a field, 4D automatically handles the loading and the saving of all the data. And this means if I cancel, nothing is saved, and if I confirm, the complete block is saved. The only code I needed to write is plus and minus, because for plus and minus I need to delete a line here, and this is not automatically. So I had one challenge. I want to use that by double-clicking the user mode, or by using it inside modify selection. And that wonderful form object, that object I love so much, is not working in modify selection. It's only working in dialog. For some years, we told you to use dialog because it's a really extremely powerful command. This is now another reason to use dialog. And if you still use modified selection, you can still use all the features except form. So this is the reason why I created here a global variable and assigned it here to the global variable. So if I click on minus, the code behind, I create a name, I make a confirm do you really want to delete, and I remove it. And with add, I push a new one inside and jump to edit item, and that's it to add one. And this line might look a little bit strange. So this is now a training. We switched from presentation to training mode, going really deep in basics. A lot of 4D developers think that this is a field and this is a variable. And this is wrong. I'm sorry. A complete misunderstanding of the way how 4D forms work. This is not a field. It is a widget. It is a widget displaying a field with a data source of a field, which means that widget subscribes to this data source. This is a strange language, I know. If you ever used Wakanda, you could have seen exactly this wording. But funny enough, this is the way how 4D forms work since the beginning. So it's a widget, and the widget represents data by subscribing to a source. So if I have two text widgets, both describing to the same name, to the same field, they both show the same. If you modify it in widget 1, widget 2 displays the same. You might use that already in the past with thermometers or stuff like that. It is just working. It is so easy, you never thought about it. And this object, the list box, is also subscribing to a data source. Subscribing means whenever the data source is changed, the widget is informed and is automatically redrawing itself. And this is the reason why we don't have a redraw command for the form, because they are automatically informed. But we needed a redraw command in previous versions was more a bug. Our developers would not like the name bug. They would say it was an incomplete implementation, but it didn't behave as you expected. So for a while now, the subscription works, and this is why there's no redraw anymore. And if content is modified in the widget, the object behind is informed, so the language knows about. If you use it later in the language, you have a correct name. If you change something in the language, the widget is informed. So coming back to that list box, this is now a complex object and not a simple data source anymore. And to make sure that the list box is informed, the widget is informed about that change in the data source, I assign it simply to itself. This makes sure that it gets all this little low-level stuff below, so that it's noticed, because contacts could have a lot of sub-attributes, and the widget only subscribes to this one and not to the sub-attributes. This is the reason why I'm using that line, even it looks a little bit strange. You normally don't need to assign $I equal to, a variable like VRT equal to VRT, because it's always fetched if you do it on the top level. Okay, I think that's it for the demo. So let's give me a try to go back to the browser. Okay. So that was the presentation. Now we are ready for question and answers, or for the next slide.
Sure. Yeah, that was a whirlwind of material. And just to remind everybody, if you want to ask any questions, you can do so on the dedicated Reddit page. You can do it via YouTube, or you can just take yourself off mute and blurt out the question right now in the Hangout. I guess one of my first questions, I actually approached Thomas at the summit about how to create such a grid interface, and he said, I have just the example, and I've been wanting to do such an example anyways, and so he told me about the two-dimensional collection-based list box type grid interface, and I said, but I have what about a couple of more requests? There's a saying, why not ask for another verst?
Yeah. So he said, we have paintings in a museum, and a painting has a title, and a painting has a description, and I want to display them similar in the web. So I said, okay, no problem. It's just a different SVG result, and everything else works as before. Simple. So Brent said, yeah, but, always there's people saying but. But we have a different way to select records. We don't want to select them by pressing Alt, Option, Control, Shift, something. We want to click, simple clicks to select, or click again to deselect. Can you do that? And to display the selected one by showing a frame around. It's not difficult. So guess how I did it? Okay, I show it. Okay. On-clicked. You need to know, maybe I do the same calculation as I did before to calculate which movie or which painting was selected. Now this is the selected movie. I created in the OnForm an empty selection. So in the beginning, this variable was empty. I check if the movie is in that selection. If it's already in, take it out. If it's not in, I add it. So meaning each click is like a button, in, out, in, out, in, out. And when I force a redraw, and the display of pictures, of paintings, is grid show cover multi. This is nearly the same code as we saw before for the movie. I find the movie, I calculate an SVG, but now I check if the current movie is in the selection. And if yes, I draw a red rectangle around. That's all. And of course, we have a little bit more SVG to have the title on top, we have a note below, and the picture in the middle. But the main trick here is the red rectangle with the contains. So I thought Brent is happy, but no. The guy said, yes, but... You know what kind of but? He said, yeah, but we also have a second table, let's say actors, and we want to drag and drop paintings to the second table to select some new collections, to prepare something, whatever. We want to drag and drop stuff. Can you do that as well? And of course, what he also asked, he said, I want to have a rectangle growing if you reselect, if you resize, yeah, sure. So I meaning reposition itself, of course. So let's go back to deselect all. I drag and drop a movie here, and it goes to a small selection of actors only in that movie. I select, let's say 2, which I know, Star Wars, yeah. I select this ones, move it. I get all the people playing in either one of that movie, like Jackson, or we should have somewhere here the people from Star Wars. I don't know the young guys. We should be the one from here. There was Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, of course. So we can do drag and drop by selecting one or several movies and drag them. And he wanted to know how we do it. So it's absolutely easy. Going back to that form.
Coming back to my earlier comment about how nice the drag and drop is, and how there's new ways even to do things with the drag and drop and the pasteboard.
Yeah, and so easy. While you could do the same with old language, it's not a real issue. The difficult thing would be to display the list box. Drag and drop is not really more difficult. It's just a different way to do it. So form selection, these are the selected records, the selected movies. To collection, this command is similar as selection to array. It produces a collection with all the ID fields, only the field named ID. So the collection looks like ID equal to 2, ID 3, ID 4, ID 5, or whatever. It always includes the name of the field, meaning that object is quite long if you have thousands of movies selected. To reduce that, I use the map feature to only get 2, 3, 4, 5, only the numbers. The map feature allows me to call my own method for each single record, and my own method is just returning the number. You could also rewrite it with a for loop and doing the for loop and add and all that stuff, but one line is easier. So when I take this new collection, put it in a new object with all the movie IDs, and static name saying this is movies. Okay, in this example it's easy, I only have one table, but in a real application you might have hundreds of tables, so you want to respond to where you come from and where you are going. So I have an object. I stringify the object and put it simply in the pasteboard. Quite simple. Now look on the other side. Here we have a drop. In the drop we get the text from the pasteboard. We check if the content look similar to JSON. If yes, we pass it. If we have a positive result, if we don't fail, we check if we come from movies. If not, we do nothing. If we are coming from movies, we take all the IDs. IDs is primary keys. When we do a query, using the relation, find all the actors in the many-to-many tabled cast, which is represented here with played in. Movie ID is the primary key. In is a kind of, you can read that similar to query with array, with a just found thing. So in the old language, you would do query with array and then relate many selection to get that. But when you still could not display it, it displays the real drag when we force here the redisplay. So this was his request. Done.
Yeah. So there's a and thanks for showing off how to do the multiple select and drag and drop. That's really going to help to reinvent the interface for our application here at the museum. And I'd just like to mention on the side that all of the approaches that Tomas has demonstrated here are all 64-bit compatible on the client side if you're running client server. So there won't be any complication running your application in 64-bit and crunching all the SVG on the fly as you're scrolling through large selections. So it's very exciting. In addition to the fact that you are controlling all of the style of the display via the SVG, it gives you a lot of interesting style and design capabilities. So it puts all of the how it displays into your hands, so that you can satisfy whatever whatever the power users are looking to see. But we have a question that was posted on the Reddit page. It seems that your naming convention uses this dot something something a lot. Does the name this have significance, or is this not that? No, wait. Is this just a favorite name?
Every JavaScript guy will know it. I mean, a lot of the commands we used for collections or a new language looks really strange if you see it as a 4D developer. On the other side, if you hire a new guy, a new developer, beginning 20s, mid 20s, the chances are very high that the guy knows all these commands. You don't need to check the manual. He knows what we do. We know how we work. You don't need to explain it to him. So when we looked for new names, we didn't try to invent our own names. We looked what JavaScript is doing, and we oriented it here, thinking that 4D developers need to learn a new name anyway. So let's use a name which is already used.
Right. So it's absolutely a functional this, and it'll be when you're using the collection-based list boxes, how to address basically the current current object reference, current item in the collection.
Yeah, so this is 4D special. It is in other languages. It's more something about an object belonging to your current context. But it's the same thing. It's the context where you are currently displaying. So,
right, right. So just more new items in the language to learn. And I would also love to just say, if I could rewrite everything in my interfaces right now using the form variable, even everything I did 1 or 2 years ago, it would completely revolutionize my applications. So that's just such an interesting approach for architecting your applications. Now, it would seem that you almost, besides if you're going to use modify selection or modify record, that, I mean, you almost hardly even need process and global variables anymore, given the current offerings with storage and shared objects and the form variables. That's got to have some considerable performance impact, say over slower connections or
no. If you use process variables, it just means that you need more memory, and memory is cheap, and computers normally have enough memory. The only negative thing is if you have process variables, you have a big scope. They're used everywhere.
Right.
And this makes testing much more difficult. So you have two choices. If you use unique variable for every use case, and you have even more variables, or you try to reuse them, to share them, and then you get in problems by conflicts. About rewriting, I think nobody can afford to rewrite an application. We spend way too much time for it. The only thing what you can do is, if you create a new model, if you change something, you can think about to use new technique for new stuff while keeping the old one running. The user mode component was, I stopped working on that because it brought me an idea. When you think about modern user interfaces, and I would like to use Outlook as an example here, they don't follow that approach what we did in 4D for so many years. In 4D, you had a list of records. When you double-click the record, to go to input mode. When you canceled or saved, to go out again to the list. You had always this kind of going in, going out. And if you needed a second window, you opened a second list. This is the way we are used to work. If you look on Outlook, what we did in the last years, the last 5-6 years, we changed the interface while we also changed in Windows going to SDI to have a kind of list of the emails on the left. When you click on an email, you get on a side area a preview of that email. And if you click on the next email, you get another preview. And if you want to see more, you make a double click on that email to open a new window. And now imagine to do something with 4D with your business application. To use a dialog with a list box showing records, and on the right side or left or below, wherever you want to have it, use a subform. And the subform is a container for an input form to show the preview of a currently selected record. If you want to display another table, you just rebuild the list box dynamically on the fly. You don't need to quit the form and reopen another one. You just modify the data source of the list box, and you change the subform on the right side, the content of the container, to display another input form. So you can have a preview. And by doing a double click on the list box, you open another window. So you can mimic, you can follow the same user interface what customers are already used from Outlook to make a user much more comfortable with your application.
I have a quick question, I guess, while we have you here, and especially with as fast as collections and collection-based list boxes are moving, and I'm sure they're quickly becoming the most, if not the most capable, which I think they clearly are, but also the most performant way to display data. 4D offers a way to automatically generate forms, output and input forms. At some point, will 4D be switching over to creating list box-based output forms, or is that just not the highest priority item for the moment?
It's not the highest priority. We have a discussion, we even have a feature request, but a lot of developers we are talking to have a kind of generic way to produce the list box. So meaning you don't have one list box for each table. You have one single dialog with one single list box, which you fill dynamically with content you just want to display. And often enough, and I personally think this is really clever, the developers allow their own end users to select which fields to display, to rearrange the order of columns, to change the width of a column, and then to save it. And save it either for the company, I mean for the complete customer, or for the user of a customer. Everybody can use its own form display. It is so easy to do, just some lines of code, and you have one generic list form for all your application. So why do you want to have 100 forms?
Right. No, I was happy to see that you were demonstrating the user mode component, because we actually have branched that here at the museum and still use largely most of the original code with a few little tweaks here and there for the ability to edit records as well. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of an approach, as you mentioned, which is generic and flexible and lightweight, is a good way to go about things. In fact, when QuickTime was retired, I effectively deleted all of our output forms because they had all the old button styles in them. So the easiest way to handle it was just getting rid of it. So just looking around if there's any other questions. Obviously, can always email Tomas directly. I'll put back up the details over here. There's his LinkedIn and his page at 4D, but he's always available for. Sorry. Oh, yep. Presenting. Kicking myself out over here. Okay.
And using the opportunity, you know, when you are working with 17, we have a forum 4D.com, and in the forum we have a subforum for the beta version, and this subforum is monitored from the developers and the product owner team. Meaning, if you want to understand where we go, if you want to discuss, if you want to express where the feature don't work as you expect, you want to go in a different way, use this forum to discuss. Yeah, highly monitoring it.
Yeah, so it's all kinds of very exciting things happening with the platform, and thank you again for your great presentation. Glad everything technically went better than last time. So just to show we can do it. And I'll just mention a little bit. Yeah. I guess that's not the best, not good timing for this anymore.
No.
But again, you can see the schedule for our next presentations at 4dmethod.com/schedule. Coming up, we'll have Balander Walia from the UK talking some more about configuration management for IT infrastructure using 4D. He had a great presentation about that at the summit. And then after that, on September 26th, we'll have Kirk Brooks joining us to talk more subforms as dynamic data objects, rethinking the 4D form. He'll be taking a lot of the ideas that he presented at the most recent summit and has shared a lot of in the past, and applying those to V17 and some of the new language capabilities. Again, calling for speakers. We have an open meeting on November 17th, November 7th, and as well next year. So if you have some ideas for what to present, go ahead and approach us, and send me an email, and we can get you on the schedule. Great. Thanks so much. Always appreciate feedback. You can support the group further other than participating on Patreon. There's some fun ways to get involved and to make the group your own there. You can check that out at patreon.com, 4DMethod. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next meeting. Thanks so much, everyone, for taking part, and we'll hope to hear from you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks everybody.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.